It's Sunday, November the 1st, and it's All Saints Sunday. So the message today is on that theme. And before I share, I'd like to share a passage from the Bible, Hebrews chapter 12. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the problems that so easily entangle, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, fixing our eyes on Jesus, the pioneer and perfecter of our faith. For the joy set before him, he endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart. Amen. I've got to tell you, I've always been fascinated by the concept of saints. And by that, I don't mean just people that have saintly behavior, which I'll talk about later. But by saints, I mean official saints, church-sanctioned saints. It's a tradition that we associate more with the Catholic or Orthodox wing of the Christian faith. You wouldn't walk into a Protestant church or a United church like this and find statues dedicated to saints, but that never gives us the right to dismiss or judge others in the faith for whom the veneration of saints is a very important and sacred part of their tradition and their practice. In essence, the idea is that some people have lived such a remarkable life that they continue, even after life, to be present to us, kind of like a bridge to God. And that in calling upon them, they can actually intercede for us. There are hundreds of these saints. St. Jerome, St. Jude, St. Peter, a veritable list of who's who in the faith, just a prayer away. In 2015, I lost my wallet. Wasn't the last time, wasn't the first time, and it won't be the last time. But I really lost it. I lost it for about a week. I put my credit cards on hold and hoped I didn't get stopped by the police because I didn't have my license. I was into day 7 of having no wallet when I mentioned it to our then administrator, Shelley. And she suggested to me that I pray to St. Anthony and he would help me find my wallet. He is the patron saint of lost things. So she typed out the prayer for me, gave it to me. I said the prayer, called upon St. Anthony's help. I drove home, I opened the garage to put some garbage in there, and lo and behold, there on the ground beside the garbage can was my wallet. Amazing coincidence, I thought to myself. Later that day, I wanted to wear a purple shirt. I still remember it. It was a shirt that I hadn't found in a long time. So, had the prayer with me, said the prayer of St. Anthony, went into my closet, looked through my shirts, and there was my purple shirt. Well, there was one other thing that I'd lost at that time as well, my wedding ring. I'd lost it a few months before playing soccer with the boys in the park. So, went over to the park, took the prayer of St. Anthony, went over to where we'd been playing, said the prayer, took a look around, and guess what? No, I didn't find my wedding ring. Could you imagine if I had? I guess maybe St. Anthony had moved on by that point. It's a fascinating concept. Another example, just before I left New Brunswick to come to Barrie, a nurse at the seniors' home where I did a lot of work gave me a little St. Christopher's medallion to take with me for my trip. He's, of course, the patron saint of travelers. She gave it to me so that St. Christopher could watch over us as we made our trip to Ontario. For years, I kept that medallion in the door of my car. I even took it to the Yukon a couple of years ago, just to have some company on those lonely roads up there. Almost every day in the calendar year, in fact, every day in the calendar year, is dedicated to a saint. We don't notice, again, because it's not part of our faith tradition, but for millions of Christians around the world, saints are a big deal, a big part of the practice of their faith. So who are these saints when they lived? Well, that too is fascinating, because they were all manner of people. Some saints were extremely well known. For example, do you know who the most venerated saint is? Kind of the first among saints? It was St. Francis of Assisi. We've all heard of him. A remarkable Christian who lived a remarkable life, considered the patron saint of animals and the environment. But do you know who the second most venerated saint is? And I can almost guarantee that you probably don't. Her name was St. Therese of Lizzo. Listen to her life. She was born in 1873 in France, joined a convent, became a nun at 15. At the age of 24, she died of tuberculosis. That's it. Her life was short and lived mostly in the cloister of a convent. So why would she be considered a saint? let alone the second most popular or venerated saint of all time. Well, over the years after her death, stories began to emerge from inside the convent walls about the beautiful spirit of this young woman, how she simply committed each day to small acts of kindness to her fellow nuns and to the villagers, how her smile radiated peace and calm, how she took time to help children with homework, or clean someone's house, or help someone who was ill. She would pick up garbage from the street and never made a fuss, and never asked for anything in return. No one even knew her name. Well, they found her diary, and in the diary she'd simply written this, that her job in life was to scatter little flowers of love. And that's what she did every day of her short life. St. Therese is popularly known as the little flower of Jesus. She is the patron saint of loving kindness. So if someone carries a little statue of St. Therese with them or has a picture of her on the wall, it's to remind them of what life of faith is all about. Daily scattering of flowers of love as we go about our daily activities. What do you think of them? What do you think of the idea of heavenly saints interceding for us in life? Have you ever had a St. Anthony moment where you called upon that saint and found something that you'd lost? Have you ever appealed to St. Jude, the patron saint of lost causes, maybe when you felt things were hopeless? Or St. Valentine, when you wanted to catch that man or woman of your dreams? Or have you ever buried a statue of St. Joseph in your garden if you're trying to sell a house? Yeah, that's a thing. St. Joseph was the patron saint of carpenters and families, but also home sellers. So people will quietly bury a statue of St. Joseph in their property in the hopes that it will sell. And I'm sure lots of people will tell you that their house sold quickly because St. Joseph was buried in the garden. I truly find it all fascinating. Because let's face it, folks, we all need a little divine boost now and again. God can seem so ethereal, so distant and separated from our reality. It's kind of nice to think of a realm of divine beings who want to intercede for us. Does that mean I believe in saints? My faith tradition in the United Church has never followed that path. But again, how arrogant is it for anyone of faith to be so sure of themselves that they dismiss the faith practices of others? What about you? Maybe you do, maybe you don't. I'm quite sure my very Protestant father at home is watching this service right now, shaking his head, thinking, Phil, where are you going with this sermon? Hang on, Dad, I'll get there. It's okay because my mom's Anglican, so she'll be counterbalancing that a little bit there as well. Who knows, but I will tell you this. Driving around with that St. Christopher medal in my car, for as long as I did, it really meant a lot to me, on many levels. The fact that someone would give that to me because they valued my safety meant something to me. But it was more the familiarity of it, that sense of something divine or sacred in the midst of something as routine, and let's face it, as dangerous as driving a car. Sometimes I would just get in there and I would say, "Good morning, Christopher," and it would make me feel good. Little connection before a long drive. By the way, do you know what happened to that St. Christopher medal? I lost it. And I never ever thought I should call upon St. Anthony to help me find St. Christopher. I just kind of figured it didn't work that way. But let me pivot here a little bit, because I think the more important and valuable thing to remember here is that before the saints became saints, they were regular people, for whom faith was more than just a concept. It was truly a driving force in their lives. Before St. Peter ever became, or St. Francis of Assisi became the patron saint of animals, he was a regular priest, a gentle man who committed himself to a life of poverty so that he could identify with those who were poor. He also had a deep connection to the created world, referring to the moon as Brother Moon and the sun as Sister Sun. He was an ordinary man who lived a simple but extraordinary faith. And he was a man before his time. He believed we had to love and take care of the earth before we ever knew about things like greenhouse gases and the dangers of carbon and clear cutting. And he was so gentle, it was said that animals would flock to him, which gave rise to the legend that he could actually communicate or speak with the animals. One of my all-time favorite quotes is credited to St. Francis of Assisi. He once said this, "Start by doing what is necessary, and then do what is possible, and before long, you'll be doing what is impossible. My point is, before he was ever an official saint, he was just a man with a very big heart, a very devout faith, and a huge commitment to the well-being of others. Same with St. Therese. Before she ever became the spiritual icon that she is today, she was just a nameless nun whose acts of quiet and sincere kindness changed everyone who came into contact with her. Someone who devoted her life to scattering little flowers of love. Here's the point about saints. They weren't born saints. They were born regular people like you or I, but they chose at some point to make their lives truly meaningful. Their faith wasn't a coat that they put on or took off as need be, or that they just wore on a Sunday morning. It was a sacred light within them that they let out that would then transform those around them. So based on that, do you believe in saints? I hope everybody would answer yes. And you know St. Anthony, the guy that helped me find my wallet? Well, he was alive. He too had some interesting things to say. Listen to what he said about sainthood. He once said, I sometimes encounter devils who look like angels, and angels who look like devils. Maybe you can relate. How I could tell one from the other was how they made me feel when they left their company. Now that could be taken in a couple of ways, because let's be honest, we've had people leave our company and we're kind of glad they left our company. But I understand it to mean that when people leave our company, if they leave something behind that makes us better, we get a sense that we've been in touch with a saint. That's a great definition of a human saint. Someone who, when they have left your company, has left something good with you. Based on that, do you know a saint? I sure do. People who just have a way of making you feel a little better about your day, your situation, and your life for having crossed paths with them. I have a good friend here in Barrie that I met at the gym I go to, and he became a friend. He'd be the last guy to call himself a saint. In fact, he once told me, he says, I'll never come out to your church because the lightning bolt that will come down would end up destroying your entire building. But there's something about him that was so engaging and so encouraging. He's just so enthusiastic about life and so enthusiastic about the people he shares his life with. I always left his company feeling better about my day and about myself. Nelson Mandela once said, I am not a saint, don't call me a saint. I am just a sinner who kept on trying. Albert Schweitzer put it this way, surely a person doesn't have to be an angel to be a saint. In fact, sometimes the greatest saints that I've come across are not that way because they were perfect, far from it, but because of their imperfections, because of their honest struggle with life, they've gained a depth of wisdom and compassion that they can use then to encourage other people. A saint is someone who makes you feel better for having spent time in their company. But let's expand that even further today. Could we not also say that some of the great saints are those who have in their quiet or simple ways made you who you are today? I never knew this, but All Saints' Day was actually a day to recognize secret saints. Every day of the year is dedicated to one saint or another, but there's not enough days in the year to cover all the saints. And so All Saints' Day was put aside to recognize those saints who were, quote, known only to God. So today is a day to honor those who may not seek or receive the limelight, who serve and give quietly, humbly, and without fanfare. The monuments they build are not of brick and mortar or gold and silver, but the inner monuments of character, integrity, and purpose-filled living. Listen to this beautiful piece of writing that takes us into the heart of a secret saint. It's called When You Thought I Wasn't Looking. It was written by a child. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you hang my first painting on the refrigerator and wanted to paint another one. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you feed a stray cat, and I thought it was good to be kind to animals. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw you make my favorite cake just for me, and I knew that little things are special things. When you thought I wasn't looking, I heard you say a prayer, and I believed there's a God I could always talk to. When you thought I wasn't looking, I felt you kiss me goodnight, and I felt loved. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw tears come from your eyes, And I learned that some things hurt, but it's all right to cry. When you thought I wasn't looking, I saw that you cared, and I wanted to be everything that I could be. When you thought I wasn't looking, I looked and wanted to say thanks for all the things I saw when you thought I wasn't looking. Secret saints. The book of Hebrews calls these people our great cloud of witnesses. Those that are with us everywhere we go from their experience and their example, which lives within us. Who are your great cloud of witnesses? Those who have gone before you and left a path for you to follow. Those whose examples, lessons, stories, memories have inspired your life and continue to do so. Those simply by the act of living have given you a piece of your life's puzzle. One of the biggest myths in the modern Western world is the myth of the self-made person. And I know there are a few people who have literally started from nothing, pulled themselves up, and made something of their lives. And I really respect that. But for the vast, vast majority of us, we are who we are because of our cloud of witnesses. The secret saints known only to us. Some who passed by, passed on, and some who journey with us still. We are who we are because somebody modeled for us hard work, or displayed love in kind and gentle gestures, who showed us what it means to overcome challenges, who believed in us when we didn't believe in ourselves, who gave us a second chance when we squandered the first one, who taught us self-respect and self-assurance, who took us to church and introduced us to our faith, or who simply looked us in the eye one day and said, "You are special just the way you are." Your cloud of witnesses, your cheerleaders, your invisible support network who hold you up and keep you going. Today is a day to give thanks for them. Your secret saints, known only to God and only to you. And sometimes the secret saints in our lives are strangers, people who just seem to be there when we need them. I'm rereading one of my favorite books right now called Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. It is a book of such great wisdom. And there's a wonderful little anecdote in that story about love. The author is talking about her sister Catherine, how practical and down to earth she is, and how she never thinks of herself as remotely religious. However, here's a passage from the book. A family in my sister's neighborhood was recently stricken with a double tragedy when both the young mother and her 3-year-old son were diagnosed with cancer. When Catherine told me about this, I could only say, shocked, "Dear God, that family needs grace." To which my sister firmly replied, No, that family needs casseroles." And then proceeded to organize the entire neighborhood into bringing that family dinner in shifts every single night for an entire year. She went on to write this: "I do not know if my sister fully recognizes that is grace." You know, we United Church folks may not understand the power of a saint, but we all know here the power of a casserole. The point is, what if saints are not just immortalized souls? What if they are the real, practical, humble folks like Catherine, who see a need and fill a need, and who by doing so are spreading flowers of love? Maybe they're not as well known as St. Francis of Assisi, but they are known to God, and they are known to those who carry their legacy with them. And I also want to say this. I'm almost finished. You have your cloud of witnesses. I have my cloud of witnesses. And this church has their cloud of witnesses too. People who in small, simple ways create goodness in life and life around them. And often to me, they do it with no fanfare. They are our secret saints. So I wrote something this week. You know the Beatitudes in the Bible, blessed are the weak, blessed are the poor in spirit, and so forth. Well, I wrote my own Northwest Beatitudes to say thank you to our saints who, although they can't be here like they used to be here, will be back one day. Blessed are those who let me start again. Blessed are those who stack chairs when everyone else goes home. Blessed are the pie makers, the soup stirrers, the cookie bakers. Blessed are those who say good morning with a smile on their face. Blessed are those who clean gutters in the rain or change light bulbs 20 feet high in the air. Blessed are the gentle, intuitive spirits who notice a sad face and goes to them. Blessed are the pew polishers, the leaf rakers, the floor moppers. Blessed are the storytellers, the jokesters, the artists, and the singers. Blessed are those who stand for hours at a sink washing dishes and never complain. And blessed are those who complain, because at least they're still there. Blessed are the gentle, the generous, the curious, and the kind-hearted. Blessed are those who not only come to this church, but who transform this church by their presence. You are the cloud of witnesses that quietly, consistently, and with simple acts of kindness and faith fill this place with the presence of the sacred. Friends, on this All Saints Sunday, can we not conclude that however we define them, saints exist? Wherever the transformative love of God shines its beacon, there is a saint through whom it shines. And so today, let's say thank you to our cloud of witnesses. We say thank you to those whose footprints walked graciously and generously through our lives and left a path that we can follow. We say thank you for saints who seem to approach perfection and who lift us to the same bar, and to those so imperfect they give us permission to be gentle and understanding with ourselves and others. We say thank you to the named saints, those whose lives inspire us, and to the secret saints, known only to God. We say thank you for the saints who've passed away, but whose memory and example continue to shape us, and for the saints who are still to come, who will tread boldly and courageously through the unknown trails of the future. And giving thanks, may we uncover our own saintly potential to become part of someone else's cloud of witnesses, encouraging the best in each other and always, always scattering little flowers of love. Amen.